All right, you're welcome along. It is Wednesday, the 15th of December. This is OTB AM. It's Gerrard and Eoin with you all the way through until 10. We have a very busy show. We're talking football, we're talking rugby, we're talking GAA, we're talking transfers of players in different sports, including getting the inside story of the Johnny Sexton move to Racing all those years ago. We'll talk about the COVID situation, but not too much, I promise. And we might talk a little bit about what happened in the football last night, Eoin.
We might do. The Death Star is back.
Seventh heaven. Magnificent seven. City of blinding lights is what the... So Man City beat Leeds 7-0 last night if you missed it. And they're pretty good at football. There's my hot take for the morning. You can clip that. The job is done. That's the 200,000 views that we need. It's pretty much over, right?
We've seen this one before, definitely. This is quite reminiscent of about 11 months ago, isn't it? When we were all locked up after a pretty depressing Christmas and we realised that we were all going to be behind closed doors until March or April. That's when Manchester City went on a pretty incredible run last year and they just couldn't be stopped. And we're all getting excited about this 3-horse race, but as a neutral on Saturday I was a little bit nervous, and it's kind of hard to even tell where that was coming from, because I want this 3-horse race to happen. I want us to cash in on the grotesque capitalism that exists in modern football, for us to actually get some sort of entertainment out of it. Like,
Are you not entertained?
Yeah, but exactly.
Jamie Delaney on the show last night was basically... I don't know if I actually feel like I want to watch this all the time. I'm paraphrasing, but the
Manchester City thing specifically?
Yeah, the City thing. It's like they're just so good. It's like... Okay.
The thing with Manchester City is that it does reach in kind of a new point of entertainment once they get over goal 5. And if the goal number 5 happens early in the game, you're like, okay, we're into record-setting territory here. The boring thing with Manchester City is when they go 2-0 up and then it's kind of like, will they get the third and it's 70 minutes and they start bringing on the bench and all that. That for me is more boring than last night, where they get 7 goals. They attempt 31 shots across 90 minutes. Not even close to the record. Manchester City has the record, 44 shots against QPR on the Aguero day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
All right.
As apparently the record. Arsenal had 36 shots against Sunderland in 2017 is another game, and Liverpool got close to that as well, and they had 35 shots against Swansea in February 2013. So City's 31 last night, not even up there. But you look at the game last night and you think to yourself, this Manchester City team are going to be the first Premier League team to score 10 goals in a match. It is going to happen. We are going to reach that high water mark, and it might have to happen soon.
Who are the potential fodder?
Well, let's just, if they had Newcastle at the weekend, that could be a pretty big problem for Newcastle United. As it turns out, they do have Newcastle United at the weekend, and I would be terrified if I was Eddie Howe.
So, I mean, Southampton are an obvious candidate at some point later on in the season.
Of course.
Have they played them twice yet? They haven't played anybody twice yet, of course. So you would have to say that all of the teams who have flakily been beaten 9-0 at some point in their history, so Palace and Southampton, it's there, obviously. Yeah. I mean, maybe there's a cup game that they can... Okay, it has to be a Premier League game. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, Manchester City against Southampton on the 18th of September finished 0-0. So they didn't manage to do the business on that occasion. But
sorry, for whatever reason, I thought, Leeds always get hammered by Man City, but they don't.
4 points off them last year.
Yeah, they have a really good record against them. So I don't know where I got that from. Was there a League Cup game that they absolutely annihilated them or something? I can't remember, but
or is it Manchester United?
Might be.
Manchester United love playing Leeds.
There was I was watching the Villa game in that first half in particular. Watching the highlights this morning of the City game. After the first goal gets scored, the camera cuts to Bielsa and he's like
he's just looking down. He's just staring at the grass. He's like, and I wonder what's going through his mind at that point.
Jim Beglin in commentary says, "Ooh, this could get nasty quickly," and I'm like, "What?" Because they in the commentary they say, City have missed a glorious chance just before this goal, and then the goal is kind of chaotic. And
Bernardo Silva misses an open goal
before that. Okay, and I mean, maybe the manager, his head dropping at 1-0 kind of somehow transfused itself onto the players a little bit. Is it possible? Well, obviously they were outclassed. They brought a gun to a knife fight.
I kind of looked at it. They certainly did. I looked.
No, a knife to a gunfight.
Well, City brought the gun to a knife fight. I looked at it and I thought to myself, Bielsa's just looking at the ground thinking, what's my next move? You know, do I look to my gilded bench and try and bring off players that perhaps even
back to Spain, maybe to Argentina again,
possibly
wrap it up?
He would have. His bench was full of players last night that probably Marcelo Bielsa hadn't heard of himself. Leeds have been ravaged recently with injuries, and their squad isn't great in the first place. And Manchester City are obviously sensational. But I did notice that myself as well. I was like, this guy's head has dropped. But I just thought he was being pensive. You know, like if you pause the game on Football Manager for a while, go for a bit of a walk, plot your next move. That's what Bielsa was doing, just on the sideline.
There's a chance they sink like a stone, which would be horrible because they've been good in the Premier League, and it's good to see them back in the Premier League. But there is a chance they sink like a stone now.
Yeah, like, I mean, in the context of the season, there is, like, they're on 16 points, they're 5 points above the relegation zone at the moment, but Burnley have 2 games in hand in them, who are in 18th position at the moment. I think there's a chance to get sucked in rather than drop like a stone, and I think that there is, I would not be surprised whatsoever if this is their season now, fighting for their own survival. Like, I mean, they desperately need Patrick Bamford back, and it doesn't make it one iota of a difference in the context of last night, but in the games that are going to matter for them over the course of the next little while. Like, their fixture list is pretty, not scary, but I know that they've got Arsenal, Liverpool in back-to-back fixtures, your beloved Villa after that. So Arsenal, Liverpool, Aston Villa are not necessarily the 3 fixtures you want to go with at the moment. And then their first game of 2022 is at home to Burnley, and that is when they need to kickstart their season, potentially. And if they have Bamford back fully fit at that point and firing really, then they do have a chance, because he's going to be absolutely central to them, himself and Rafinha. If anything happens to the two of them in the business end of the season, they will get relegated.
There's a good chance, I think, that they sink like a stone at this point. It's just that the second season syndrome, and everybody has a lot of tape now on Bielsa and how his team want to go, and Calvin Phillips was out for such a long time and doesn't seem particularly happy anyway. That would be disappointing if they do go straight down, but I think Norwich are going down after being beaten last night as well.
They were bad. Like, I mean, you watched the game, but like, certainly the 2 goals, granted, the first goal, I mean, it was pretty good, but I've
watched the first goal about 40 times now.
Somebody has to stop him.
Well, I can't tell, is there a little bit of a reflection on the finish?
Oh, I just think it was a beautiful finish. I think if it finish, you can't take away from him.
I'm not taking it away, but
but I'm saying you can take away everything else, because I'm blaming it on Norwich. Not take it away, but you can blame a lot of it on Norwich. But the finish, I thought, was sublime.
His feet were pretty quick. Screw you, on. I'm going. There's a thing of beauty.
Right, he runs half the pitch, which is true. That is a fact. He did run the pitch, but it felt like he beat one man as he ran half the pitch. He just, like, there were other bodies that he ran past for sure, but he only kind of had to beat one man, and then obviously the shot, he had to beat the keeper, and it was a fantastic finish.
He turned a couple of people inside out. I know Ozan Kabak isn't considered to be a world beater or anything, but he went off injured last night, and I thought he was good. I thought he's been good since he's come back into the team. He was kind of in and out of the team for a while. I think he looked like a good defender. Should have scored against Man United at the weekend.
Yeah.
And like, they were flaky last night, and there's a flakiness in a team who obviously are bottom of the table and who've already changed their manager. And he actually only goes off at half time, but I think he got injured a little bit earlier and kind of tried to play through it. So I don't know about Norwich.
But it's mad that we're even, like, it has been an improvement from them, that we're even talking about them in the sense of, I don't know about Norwich, as opposed to they're doomed, because a couple of games into the season it was like record low and they're definitely going to go down. And I think though that something like last night could break their spirit, and they could finish so they have 10 points at the moment. If they finish with 18 points at the end of the season, you'd be like, not surprised. No, it's true, and we're almost at the halfway point of the season as well. 10 points after 17 games isn't exactly a hopeful tally, but there have been enough signs, I think anyway, over the last little while to suggest that they could get off bottom spot, and then it's all up for grabs. Like I said this the other morning, I do think that we could be in for potentially a cracking relegation fight as well, as long as just one of those extra teams gets dragged into it. I said it was possibly going to be Southampton the other morning. After last night, you probably have to say Leeds are the most likely candidate to make it a proper 5-horse relegation race, but you need Norwich and Newcastle to be picking up points here and there so that everybody gets brought into the mix. Talking like a real neutral here, like as if a team that you follow is like mid-table or just has no horse in any fight in this. You're just looking at the top and the bottom, hoping for some sort of drama.
Well, I think that hopefully there are 3 little leagues, and there's the mini league for the top 3, and somebody stops Man City and they drop points again, and there's just a little bit of doubt creeping in, or something happens to make them, I don't know, it's very difficult to see that happening at the moment. But in terms of the race for 4th, right, can Steven Gerrard keep this up?
Well, I mean,
there's nothing but win or lose.
I'm sure the first
there's
thing
no draws.
I'm sure the first, well, that's a good point. The first thing he did last night, I'm sure, was check the league table and just see how far are we off West Ham again. Like, And the answer is 6 points. Obviously, Aston Villa have an extra game played, but there is
Still got to play all these teams.
yeah. Like the problem is, it's just that the volume of teams between them and West Ham, and the quality, the potential quality, like Leicester City, Spurs, Arsenal, Manchester United, to finish above all 5 of those teams, I think would be a massive stretch. But like Aston Villa finishing in the top 7 would be a sensational return, no?
Look, it would be ridiculous.
Like the thing is, though, they're ninth at the moment, and actually getting above 2 of those teams will be
a brilliant finish. Yeah.
Possibly a stretch. Yeah.
So everybody is saying Steven Gerrard's like excellent. Like it's difficult for me to judge because obviously, you know, like a dog that has been kicked by Logan Roy. Don't want to come back, but want to come back. So, is he good?
Yes,
tell
he
me.
is. Yeah, well, like if you're judging on the evidence of the last couple of weeks, of course he is. He's had a fantastic start as Aston Villa manager. They're in 9th. Like we said before he was appointed, that a top half finish would be an excellent return as Aston Villa manager. Because
now it's like, no, I want more than that.
But I do think we need to keep it in based on reality as well. That like a top half.
But the reality is none of these teams are any good. They're all flaky as
you mean finishing ahead of Wolves, Brentford, and Brighton?
No, I'm talking about West Ham.
You're talking about Champions League.
To an extent, Man United, Arsenal, Spurs, Leicester. They're the teams ahead of them. So Roddy Collins has called Ralph Rangnick a spoofer.
Yeah.
Right? He says that this is nonsense. He says he's amazing at PR. He's the type of person who gets belched out by the pro license.
Okay.
It's very damning stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now, he's had some success at senior level, you'd have to say. Some success. But never with players of the quality that he has at Man United. What if he is a spoofer? What if Roddy's right?
No, nobody ever gets their articles brought up if they're right. It's always if they're wrong. So I hope that people who are in the non-Manchester United school of thought have saved this article and congratulate Roddy Collins at the end of the season if Rangnick does turn out to be a spoofer. The thing is, it's hard to sometimes decipher what a spoofer is because they're so good at spoofing that they trick you into thinking that it's not their fault but the player's fault. Yeah,
and I guess the time off now, the enforced time off with COVID from those matches, like, is that so? Can he get his stuff into the rest of the players? Is it first team player? We don't know. Do we know the players who've tested positive?
I don't think so. I don't think we know who they are, but
they tend to keep it until the match happens and everybody's like, that guy's missing, and then it's a kind of respect. But it's not like in American football where they announce before the player knows. Basically, it seems like the test results are being leaked as soon as they happen. Maybe it's his first team who he gets to drill for 2 weeks now without a game, and that's like, well, you've had loads of time in the training ground, and then we get to see him because they weren't good at the weekend.
No, and they haven't. They certainly haven't been overly impressive. Like, I think that maybe he's talked quite an impressive game, and I don't want to lean too much into the idea that he's a spoofer here because I don't know. Like, I presume he's an excellent appointment. Like, maybe not an excellent appointment. I presume he's a very, very good appointment, and that they have done their due diligence on the guy and that he's not a spoofer. You'd like to think that Manchester United have at least that in their locker in the hierarchy of the club.
So who did the due diligence? The same person, same people who hired, and then, you know, they 89 million on Paul Pogba. That was a great transfer, wasn't it? I mean, it was good for their social media. It definitely worked out on that sense, and it probably didn't cost them money on a balance over a period of time. It definitely cost them in terms of opportunity and culture.
Yeah, I just think that maybe there has been a bit of confirmation bias going on in the first couple of games where, you know, they've won both of their Premier League games, granted against Norwich City and Crystal Palace, and those results have been grinded out, and they wouldn't have happened as a result of if Solskjaer is in the dugout. Maybe I think that it's too soon, way too soon, to be making any conclusions as to whether or not Rangnick and his methods are working at Manchester United because he hasn't properly implemented them yet. His post-match comments have all been very interesting because, as I say, he talks an excellent game and he explains things in a way that Solskjaer never did. That doesn't mean he's a better manager than Solskjaer. That's not an element that you look at to judge one manager over another. But it just seems that he has kind of given off this sheen of a manager who is very, very good, and that's one thing that we have to judge him on because he's played 3 games.
He's no Steven Gerrard.
No, Steven Gerrard. Like, I mean, Steven Gerrard is doing
the one thing about the Villa thing is that over the last couple of years, there's been this kind of constant bubbling up of, they've got great kids coming through, and they won an FA Youth Cup, and those kids are starting to make an impact at senior level. And that's unbelievably exciting because you never know how good they're going to be. That's the best thing about being a sports fan is like this next group of young players are the best we've ever had.
Yeah.
We're not bored by watching them week in, week out. And at the moment, he has arrived at just a precise time where almost all his senior players are fit, and they're all trying to bust a gut to make sure that they stay in the team. Ollie Watkins' form has come back, and it looks pretty good. It's like I'm getting sucked back in.
Yeah, and like players yet to come back as well. They have always been, not always, but like over the course of the last 2 seasons, they have been very, very good to watch. But that's what happened at the start of this season, wasn't it? That they kind of became a little bit more dour to watch. And that wasn't even at the start of the season, because the first couple of weeks they were really, really good. It was just that period in, what was it, October?
There's a weird psychological thing that seems to happen in managers where they start second guessing themselves, because he was like, oh, I got a couple of centre backs and I got all these extra forward players and I need to get them all on the team, as opposed to saying you're going to have to earn your way into the team because my team is really good, which is exactly what Gerrard's doing. He just dropped everybody who wasn't playing well, and then their form came back because they tried to get back in the team, and now they have to do what they're supposed to do. Like when Dia was good off the bench at the weekend, he gets in the team. It's like, that makes sense. Whereas previously it was like, I've spent all this money on him, we have to sign him, we have to play him. So, but managers second guessing themselves. Why do they do it? Why does it happen? Why do they go away from the thing that made them great in the first place? A reminder, OTB AM brought to you by Gillette. Good morning. Start with Gillette. Put your best face forward with their new and improved razors. We've got the sports news with John Duggan coming up right now. Cian Tracy's going to join us for a roundup of all the rugby stories. Johan van Graan is obviously one of the big stories in Irish sport at the moment. We'll get into detail on that with Cian at 8:10. Sports pages at 8:30. A gift guide from Jess Kelly at 8:40. Fintan Drury is going to talk to us about his remarkable career and life in sport. And then Matt Lawton is going to talk about the curious case of the 100-metre champion. What's his name? Olympic 100-metre champion? The
100-metre champion has disappeared.
Yeah, what's his name?
The guy from Italy.
Here's a quiz question for you, Eoin.
The Italian 100-metre
John Duggan, do you know?
Champion.
No, I looked at him through his phone, tried to Google it.
I deliberately took the whole of the Olympics off. I had no interest.
I can't remember his name.
No, I didn't watch any Olympics.
I listened to the piece last night and I've forgotten his name.
I watched Kelly Harrington's the only thing I watched the Olympics.
That's fair enough. But it's mad, isn't it? That was kind of the premise of the piece.
Marcel Jacobs,
that's it. John Duggan, good morning to you.
How are you getting on, lads? We well?
Owen's just like, why can't I have that question for this week Friday? You probably could still have it and I would still forget it.
Well, it would be a crappy quiz question that I would get wrong, which would be a rarity. Ooh, the cat. Meow. To start off the morning.
Feeling himself. We've lots to talk about. Where are we going to start?
Well, I think in 1998, Isterbrack went off a 3-1 favourite for the champion hurdle. And it looked, in hindsight, it was one of the greatest bets in history, because Isterbrack won by half the track. And I know people who won a lot. I know somebody who won a house out of that bet. And I just feel Manchester City for the Champions League at 3-1 this morning is a stone cold great bet. Unless Pep Guardiola loses it again, which is obviously capable of happening. That is the caveat to it.
So this is the thing, right?
Like they have everything. What about this number 9? They like Cancelo, Jesus, and Raheem Sterling weren't even involved last night.
So what does he do though? That's the thing, right? The team last night looked perfect, but what if that team gets picked again and they're not perfect? And then he's like, oh no! And then all of a sudden in a one-off game against, I don't know who, like. Liverpool, Atletico Madrid, do they make it that far? They're unlikely. A one-off game against Chelsea again. Does he pick the same team last night and have the confidence to go for it, or is it like, oh, I've got to shoehorn?
I just think it's going to come together for them, and sometimes it doesn't come together for you in sport. I just think sometimes it then comes together, and people look back and go, yeah, well, City finally produced the form that they've been producing in the Premier League and the Champions League, and they have been getting closer, semi-final and now final, and they messed it up obviously against Chelsea last year with the defensive midfielder situation. I just think they've got too much talent. Like Leeds didn't help themselves last night, but the City have now gone 7 games in a row, won all of them in the Premier League, and I think Chelsea are beginning to, in the cycling analogy, they're beginning to struggle.